beautiful actresses that had nerdy roles. Don't be fooled by how strange or plain they try to make these actresses look in their nerd girl roles. It's still Hollywood, so of course the most beautiful people were picked for these movies and shows. Ariel Winter. Take a look at this photo. Do you recognize this young woman? If you don't, it's okay. She's a little older now and looks slightly different without glasses or makeup. Would you be surprised if we told you she is the younger daughter of the Dunphys in Modern Family? 20-year-old Ariel Winter stopped looking like the book-smart, snarky 13-year-old she played on the hit ABC comedy show. She first started in the industry when she was just 4 years old. Her big break was thanks to a Cool Whip commercial. About 2 years ago, Winter began attending classes at UCLA, hinting that she would be studying law. Alison Brie. She's not a huge household name, but if you're an avid consumer of TV and movies, chances are you recognize Alison Brie, especially if you were a fan of Community, where Alison Brie starred as teenage Annie Edison. On the show, Brie's character was adorable, but also very neurotic, nervous, and on the surface, a goody two-shoes. Even though the character of Annie was 18 years old, at the time she portrayed her, Brie was already nearly 30 years old. Good thing she has such a young face and an ability to put on a bubbly personality, because she totally fit the role. Tina Fey. She's the ultimate dorky woman in Hollywood and gets paid for being as cool as she is. Tina Fey is now 48 years old. In reference to her and her best friend Amy Poehler, she once said that they are now much better looking in their 40s than they ever were in their 20s, which is a nice change in progression. Fey, whose real name is Elizabeth Stamatina Fey, has played many a nerdy, awkward, and clumsy character, though one of her most iconic roles was as Miss Norbury in the film she wrote, Mean Girls. Amanda Bynes. Oh my gosh, where do we start with Amanda Bynes? First of all, let's all acknowledge that she went a little crazy in the public eye back in the mid-2010s and virtually baffled everyone. Why was it so baffling? Well, while studios always cast Bynes as one of those goofy girl-next-door types, the goofiness never really delved into the bizarre. Speaking of those roles, those included both the sketch comedy show, The Amanda Bynes Show, and her teen young adult sitcom, What I Like About You. Amanda Seyfried. Moving on to a different Amanda. In her career thus far, Amanda Seyfried starred in all sorts of roles. She's also proved she can sing. Hello, Mamma Mia, and Les Mis. Seyfried started acting in 1996 and is now 32 years old, though she looks pretty young still. When we talk about her playing someone nerdier, we're referencing when she appeared in Diablo Cody and Karen Kusama's adaptation of Jennifer's Body. Seyfried played Anita Needy Lesnicki, if that nickname already doesn't tell you what kind of character the exec gave her. Needy's personality mirrored that of more traditionally sultry character Jennifer, played by Megan Fox. Pauley Perrette. NCIS has been on the air for 16 seasons, putting it at nearly 16 years. One of the characters on the show since the beginning was Pauley Perrette. She played Abby Shuto, a character featured on the show from the 1st to the 15th season. The show classifies Abby as a goth, so Perrette's role requires her to dress in goth jewelry and all black clothes every episode. On her character, Perrette said once that what she represents is a smart, capable chick that cannot be reduced to a stereotype. Alexis Bledel. Her most famous role remains to this day as Rory Gilmore on the cult classic show Gilmore Girls. In the eyes of most TV viewers over 10 years ago, Alexis Bledel embodied Rory, the sometimes irrational, fast-talking bookworm daughter of her equally fast-talking but much more laid-back mother, Lorelai. Gilmore Girls fans watched Rory grow up from the kind but somewhat shy private school student dedicated to her study to the college student on her way to making a living as being a journalist. No spoilers if you haven't seen the revival on Netflix. Natalie Morales. Not to mix her up with the news anchor with the same name. Today, we're talking about the Natalie Morales that used to star on White Collar. For a season, Morales played junior detective Lauren Cruz, who was a little too dedicated to her job, as obsessed nerds can get. She wasn't on the show long, but she would soon move on to star in Parks and Rec, the ultimate gathering of dorks on TV. Mindy Kaling. She's made her mark on the hit show, the American remake of The Office. But then she went on to create her own show and get solo success on that. Mindy Kaling used to play Kelly Kapoor, first appearing in Season 1 and stayed on The Office until the finale in Season 9. Kelly Kapoor worked as a customer service representative at Dunder Mifflin, the resident chatterbox. You might recognize her voice for the high-pitched tone Kaling uses more prominently when playing Kelly, who often annoyed the other characters. Kaling would then go on to play Mindy in The Mindy Project, who was different from Kelly, but also really dorky. Alyson Hannigan. Before she was Lily on How I Met Your Mother, and even before the American Pie movies, Alyson Hannigan was on one of the most successful and beloved shows of the late 90s and early 2000s, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Hannigan starred as Willow Rosenberg, the resident nerd of Buffy's circle of friends at Sunnydale High. It's difficult to imagine anyone else playing the teen-turned-witch Willow, especially since Hannigan portrayed her for like 7 seasons. Lea Michele. Can you get any lamer than being a Gleek? Just kidding. Gleeks can be cool. Up next is the geek Gleek queen herself, Lea Michele, who famously played the character of Rachel Berry on Ryan Murphy's musical comedy teen drama series, Glee. Michele was in her 20s when she first started working on the teen favorite show. Rachel Berry was as dedicated to the Glee scene as they come, as she restarted the old Glee club in high school to get more popular and eventually land a boyfriend. Danielle Fishel. Topanga. It's a name that 90s kids remember well. How do you forget a name like that, especially when it was one of the lead characters on the show Boy Meets World? The answer is, you can't. Danielle Fishel played Topanga Lawrence from 1993 to 2000, and spoiler, eventually she becomes Topanga Lawrence Matthews. Fishel eventually reprised her role for the spin-off sequel series, Girl Meets World. Other characters considered Topanga the hippie, weird kid, a vegetarian who, from time to time, made her environment-friendly beliefs known. She was a guest character in the first season, and then later a recurring one. Topanga eventually became main character Corey Matthews' main love interest. Emily Deschanel. You might know her actress sister a little better, but let's not gloss over Emily Deschanel, who's already had a career of her own. Emily Deschanel, the eldest daughter of director and cinematographer Caleb Deschanel and actress Mary Jo Deschanel, started her acting years in 1994. Relatively unknown for a few years, she became more recognizable after getting cast as Dr. Temperance Bones Brennan on Fox's mystery series, Bones, in 2005. We say the title Doctor, and you already know that Dr. Brennan is supposed to be smart, and she is. Dedicated to her work, Brennan is also quite straightforward, a no-nonsense, socially inept, sarcastic forensic anthropologist whose personality is offset by her colleague, FBI Agent Seeley Booth, played by David Boreanaz. Amy Poehler. We mentioned earlier when we discussed her best friend, Tina Fey, and now we're finally on Amy Poehler herself. She doesn't play a glamorous, always winning, headstrong female lead. Instead, we see Amy Poehler in our minds as everyone's favorite character she's played thus far, Leslie Knope. She's the main protagonist of Parks and Rec. Despite all of Knope's failings and awkward scenarios that she's created, at the core of it, she's a good person. We have main actress and producer of the show, Poehler, to partially thank for such a memorable character. Amy Acker. Sci-fi and fantasy nerds all know who Amy Acker is. If you starred on Angel, Person of Interest, and Dollhouse, you'd be famous at Comic-Con too. Amy Acker is a favorite amongst the nerd fandoms. We, of course, can't forget her start as the librarian-looking, anxious Winifred Burkle on the Buffy spin-off show, Angel. Kristen Bell. Then we have Kristen Bell, who everyone remembers best from Veronica Mars, which is set to come back, by the way. Viewers would see Bell on the TV every week during the teen primetime drama slot as an amateur sleuth. She's 38 years old now, though we still know Bell to be quite the goofball in real life, recently the star of The Good Place. But back to Veronica Mars. Veronica worked as a private investigator, not something you often saw for a high schooler, but hey, it was an immensely popular show. Rachel Lee Cook. She's All That ranks as the most iconic ugly duckling to beautiful swan high school story. Not the best message, but we all remember that movie. At the center of the 1999 film, we had Rachel Lee Cook, who played Lainey Boggs, the pick of popular high schooler Zach Seiler, played by Freddie Prinze Jr., to be the object of his bet that involves turning a random girl into a prom queen. Bobs goes from plain girl to the object of everyone's desire or envy. If that's not the quintessential nerd to glam girl trope story, we don't know what is. Emma Watson. The Harry Potter movies were one of the biggest movie franchises of all time. So, chances are that most people in the world know who Hermione Granger is, and that Emma Watson landed a most coveted role. Emma Watson proves she's quite the smart cookie herself, getting accepted into Brown and then attending Oxford for university. It seemed to fit then that she'd be cast at such a young age to play the know-it-all Gryffindor who always had her nose in a book. Linda Cardellini. Scooby and the gang would not have made it too far if Velma wasn't part of the squad. The iconic cartoon character has been around for decades and finally brought to the big screen in the live-action adaptation Scooby-Doo, where Linda Cardellini played Velma. At the time, Cardellini wasn't too well known. The most notable thing she'd been in before Scooby-Doo being Freaks and Geeks, where she portrayed an intelligent character, though she was much more alternative. Almost at number 1, who do you think it is? Before we reveal the top spot, we have a question for you. If you were a character in a movie, would you be the really cool tough guy? Or would you be the awkward nerdy one? Let us know in the comments below. Zooey Deschanel. When it comes to playing the cute, quirky girl on the screen, no one blends in more with her character than Zooey Deschanel on New Girl. To be fair, she's a producer on the show and is the named star, meaning she has a significant influence on the portrayal of her character. Zooey Deschanel sports her signature bangs and colorful retro-inspired clothes on the show, though we're pretty sure those outfits came right out of her own closet. Deschanel plays Jess, a bubbly 30-something-year-old teacher who moves into an apartment full of bachelors. Hijinks naturally ensue, and you'll catch Jess on every episode jumping around and freaking out about something. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's video, and hit that bell notification to see when we upload next.